And no, I'm still not doing BioShock Infinite Burial
Seems
at
my
Sea, and I
instincts were
probably
correct.
never.
Bro, I'm gonna fucking kill myself.
But dude, the goth mommies.
Bro, you gotta stop with this.
Dude,
You're always on about fucking...
dude, I'm sorry, but like ever since I stopped making videos, I feel like a piece of myself has been missing. You know, like videos are a huge part of who I am.
Then just make a video.
But dude, I don't know what game to make a video on, and I don't even think anyone's gonna watch it anymore. None of my viewers care about my content anymore.
Well,
They just watch me for my body at this point.
Okay. There is one thing. There's one game that you could do.
Well, I'm not doing Death Stranding again,
choose
man.
to accept it. Well, I wasn't gonna ask you Death Stranding. That's literally ass. No. You could finally do Burial at Sea.
What? You want me, call me psycho, to play Burial at Sea?
Well, I mean, you already played it, so you just gotta make the video.
What do you mean I already played it? I haven't played it in years.
Future. You've always been playing it.
What the fuck are you talking about? I really never wanted to do this, but you guys force my hand. I'll do it. I'll talk about the game that I've been teasing for this long. Is an adventure video game developed by an independent Chicago-based developer, Young Horses. It was released on the PS5 on November 12th, 2020, and this game... What can I even say that hasn't been said already? For the longest time, I've made fun of Bugsnax enjoyers because I never truly understood the peak that is Bugsnax, but I do now, fortunately. After waiting 4 years to play this game, I've never been more amazed. I just have to say, I really was not expecting this game to be as fun as it is. It's creative, it's quirky, but the thing that makes it different is it's way more, like, it's like a complete subversion that I would never expect from this game. It's not this kiddie little silly adventure game. It's a dark, romantic horror comedy.
And she's a real charmer.
Eggabell, stop.
What? The people deserve to know.
You're the only one who gets to know.
Okay.
Which is something I can really appreciate as a subversion. I love media that plays itself as like this really kiddie thing, but in reality, it's a dark, twisted, corrupt version of a child's imagination that is truly... Alright, fine, I'll talk about BioShock Infinite Burial. Let's see. You fucking... Let me just start off by getting this out of the way first. The entire plot hinges on the fact that we're playing as the very last Comstock in every reality. Now, I would like to remind everyone that at the end of the base game, multiple versions of Elizabeth drown Booker after finding out he's Comstock in many alternate timelines. Because, if they stop him before he can do anything, it'll erase all versions of him and alter events, because without him, there is no Elizabeth either, because she's really his daughter, Anna DeWitt, and I swear all this is important for my point to work. Now, in this DLC, we're playing as the very last Comstock in the multiverse. How is that even possible, considering the wipe was supposed to fully erase him? So anyways, we're the very last Comstock who took Booker's name and ran a rapture after the guilt of killing another version of his daughter. In the base game, Elizabeth's pinky got cut off while this was happening, but in Burial at Sea, this version's head got cut right off. What I despise about this multiverse shit is that there are multiple alternate worlds inside of an alternate world. How the fuck does that make any sense? So anyways, the whole thing is that Rapture has its own alternate world, while Columbia's alternate world has its own alternate worlds. We killed Booker to erase all versions of him so he never existed, but we had to kill him while he existed, so the one in Burial at Sea crossed over to Rapture while Infinite Timeline still existed, so he's not affected by the events of Infinite Timeline, so the events of Columbia does not affect the variants of Rapture. But you guys remember how he's the final version? Well, that actually ties back into the fact that because he's been in Rapture for over a decade, he has infinite versions of himself in different realities, except not really, because according to this game, even though he crossed over and there's multiple universes where he didn't or did do a certain action, he's still the only one remaining in the multiverse. But you know what's kind of funny to think about? Because Infinite deleted itself from the timeline, the version that Comstock killed and never even actually existed. Shouldn't that mean the events that led up to his guilt shouldn't have existed, and Elizabeth has no reason to kill him out of revenge? Whatever. I don't even have time to think about it. It's going to something more simple and easier to understand. Barrel at Sea introduces these things to Rapture called the Air Grabbers, which according to Booker is a children's toy. This might not sound like anything important, but highlights the shitty attempts to include these mechanics in Infinite that no one likes. And in the base game, it's explained that the skyhooks were actually important for the world building and was made for that purpose. But why the fuck would a children's toy be something that you're able to cut someone's head off easily and require you to leap in the air like fucking Tarzan to capture into a line? Why would there even be any lines just all over the ceiling and in certain areas anyway? We're indoors and underwater. It's not like Columbia where there's a lot of area and open space, and we're in the air. Anyways, another thing I absolutely despise is that we finally have plasmids back, except not really, because they're just the Vigors from Infinite with different names. And when I say different names, I don't mean different names for the plasmids. I mean they're not called Vigors. They're called plasmids. But they have the exact same name as the Vigors in Infinite. Instead of calling it Electroball, it's called Shock Jockey. Instead of calling it Winter Blast, it's called Old Man Winter. Now, I need to ask you guys, seriously, why the fuck would there be two plasmids that do the same thing conceptually with different names when they have the same purpose as the other plasmid? Which is, fine. I accept this, and instead of giving us the plasmids in the first two games, we got these shitty-ass Vigors again, but how do you make superpowers boring? Who knows? I don't know. Do you know? Oh, wait. I do know. It's because these lazy fucks didn't want to come up with an updated plasmid animation, so instead of doing that, they created drinkable plasmids, and because they love making me upset, Suchong from the first game created plasmids, then Fink from Infinite stole the idea and got technology to make them drinkable, and then Suchong stole the technology to make them drinkable, and why did they do this? Well, isn't it obvious? They had to explain every single itty-bitty detail from the first game, except drinkable plasmids never fucking existed? And you know what's really funny? It makes you so happy to see someone actually tried to say that this actually makes perfect sense. You see, when BioShock 1 was being developed, the concept was thrown around that plasmids could be drinkable before it was scrapped for the injection. Please do me a favor and block me if this is a hill you're willing to die on to defend this stupid fucking lore. Another reason this doesn't make any sense is that instead of getting Eve from, Eve hypos like the first game fucking established and there's a major gameplay element in, you get them from the same salt bottles in Colombia. Instead of storing plasmas in gene banks, you buy them from there now. And why would Cohen be in this random theater instead of an own area that he has complete control over? Fort Frolic, an entire section of the city made for him, the most iconic and memorable level of the first game. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, I think I lost my will to live. Do you think I can get it back before this video?
No.
So, does anyone remember how BioShock told a really great story about gathering the world's leading minds to achieve great things without constriction, and watching the collapse of the city that came from it due to them breaking their own philosophy? Remember how Fontaine's funding was a major part of the plot? Remember how plasmids were essential to the lore of this story? Well, guess what? You're wrong. Fuck you. It was Suchong and fucking Fink that created the Big Daddies. One of the leading minds in the world needed a scientist from fucking 1912 to help him with this. Suchong and Fink were collaborating the whole time, guys. A man from 50 years in the past was able to get his subjects to bond. But I guess Suchong was just a fucking moron that couldn't do it for some reason. Kill myself. And wait a second. If drinkable plasmids are actually just what Vigors are in Colombia, how did Fink manage to mass produce this if there was only brief talks about underwater expeditions? They cost 10 times the amount of atom to create them than the regular plasmids. So how did he make so fucking much of them? Also, how come they don't show the original line of Big Daddies and only show the bouncer ones? Oh yeah, it's because the DLC likes to pretend that BioShock 2 doesn't exist and retcon a crucial piece of the timeline. Anyways, moving on. Okay, fine. Fontaine's store was sunk and used as a prison by Andrew Ryan, the creator of Rapture, and one of the main antagonistic forces in the first game, if you don't remember. I'd like to ask the question of why? Why would Ryan, this big fucking visionary businessman, sink a building that he himself owns with tons of valuable resources and goods that he himself owns and waste probably millions of dollars? And to add on to that, why would he make it into a prison if there was a location in Rapture made for this purpose? Only God knows. I don't even have time to really think about it because yet another question is in my mind. Why would there be merchandise for the Little Sisters in the department store? Fontaine was keeping this a secret from the general public. You're saying that after his supposed death, Ryan put up a ton of merchandise, then decided to sink the fucking building? The central problem with this DLC is that because it's a prequel, it tries so hard to explain and reference events, locations, and characters in the original game that ends up fucking up the established lore and story. These surface level Easter eggs and references might trigger the little nostalgia in your brain, but does it mean anything when the actual plot fucks up the whole story? For example, in Burial at Sea, Fontaine is just wearing a wig as Atlas, except he's not. We know that's not the case. He got plastic surgery and grew his hair out. Now, does this really matter? Not really, no. But do you think he would have wigs just out in the fucking open for any smuck to walk in and see and realize the problem here and ruin his entire plan? Okay, alright. I'm fine. Okay. I'm calm. Okay? I realized I went on an unhinged rant about a few problems concerning the lore and the timeline. I'm now going to go over the characters as they are depicted in the DLC. Let's start off with Booker, or Comstock, whatever you want to call him, I guess. Ignoring the fact that he should be dead, I think it's interesting to have a version of Comstock that regrets that he became Comstock and goes back to being Booker DeWitt. However, one thing I don't understand is that how and why did he go to Rapture? But I hope you're prepared to die with that question in your mind because I don't know. But because I don't want to give myself another headache, let's just accept this, okay? My new question is, what is up with his voice? He sounds exactly like Booker, but we know Comstock is old as shit and there's basically a fossil there. We know what Booker is supposed to sound like when he's that old. Why does he sound like regular Booker? Well, it's because they desperately wanted you to be shocked by this twist, except you're not, because it's the most obvious thing in the world. Why? Because of the next character I'm talking about, Elizabeth. Now, the entire time that she's in this story, it is the most obvious thing in the world that she is going to betray you. I let my brother watch me play through the entire thing, and he immediately picked up on the fact that she's going to betray you and get you killed because she's the most suspicious person alive. And I think the game might actually believe that you're incompetent because there's multiple times where they hint at this possibility, and at one point Cohen directly states, "Be careful there, Mr. DeWitt. She'll take you where you don't want to go." Bro, it's obvious at this point, and it's made it even more obvious. But the reason why it's so annoying is that they constantly shove it in your face that she's going to betray you, but then they act like it's this insane twist at the end. But let's get back to Elizabeth as a character. Elizabeth as a character has basically been taken out back, shot. The director of the first game came in and pissed on her corpse and threw her body into a semi-truck because she is fucking awful here. Now, I'm not gonna cry about sexualization, it fits the style of the genre they're going for, but I will say it's a little weird when she's flirting with what is essentially her dad if he was as old as a grandpa. It also kind of bothers me that she's constantly beat up and shit way more than any other protagonist, and they consider her so weak that her gun in episode 2 doesn't kill people. It's a gun. I don't care how weak the person holding it is. If I shoot you in the head with a bullet, you're going to die. I'm not a feminist or anything, and I'm not offended. I don't even really care that much. But it's just kind of weird considering we know she's powerful. Moving on, there's something more concerning with the personality side. She is extremely unlikable here, and she was the best part of the original game because she was likable. She came to Rapture to kill Comstock and make him suffer, but instead of just, I don't know, killing him, she instead uses a little girl that he cares about to lead him to a spot for a big daddy to kill him and make him pay for it for killing another little girl. She used and hurt a little girl to get revenge for the death of another little girl. Okay, that's really fucked up. But anyways, Elizabeth was never a spiteful little psychopath. She was filled with rage after being tortured and wanted to kill her abuser. But even once she got the chance, she didn't lash out and she didn't even do it at all. But in the DLC, she's suddenly a manipulative psychopath, willing to hurt even children to forward her own goals. I would also like to add the whole burning Sally to lure her out plan wouldn't even work because the little sister is filled with so much Adam that they shouldn't even be affected by this. Nor should the Big Daddy be able to fight them like this anyway, because he shouldn't have a fucking harpoon drill arm that lets him launch like Spider-Man? That's not supposed to be a thing, but I guess it is now. You know, the same DLC that said this idea was scrapped and they didn't go through... Okay. Whatever. But anyways, I know I just criticized Elizabeth, but she's still the best part of the DLC. She has a good design, Courtney Draper is still doing an amazing job with her voice and even changes to fit the tone better.
Can you turn it up? Oh, it's so intoxicating, but also powerful and masculine. Oh yes, one feels the urge to surrender.
Holy shit.
Well, let's just leave it at I think she does a really good job. Anyways, I think Elizabeth is from a design and voice perspective great, but it's a little unfortunate she's been character assassinated. When it comes to the other characters in the previous game, I can't believe it's possible, but they managed to ruin all of them. Su Chong is incompetent, Cohen is now a parody version of himself, Ryan is now a brain-dead, out-of-character moron, and Fontaine is an inconsistent joke compared to his original depiction. But, I mean, at least the DLC doesn't ruin the major twist of the first game, right? Right?
No.
Of course it does, because I can't have anything anymore. So you guys know how in BioShock a part of the iconic twist is that Fontaine put a trigger phrase in your head from the moment you were born? The phrase was "would you kindly," in case you forgot. This phrase makes you incapable of resisting whatever command is issued to you. This huge part of the story that everyone agreed was so amazing was retconned by this stupid DLC. He doesn't know Jack's trigger phrase. He had to be told it by Elizabeth.
You want me to kill you?
I swear to fucking God, bro. They so desperately want to connect Infinite's story to the wider universe that they retcon one of the most iconic stories in gaming history to make Elizabeth more important. What happened to the story? If Elizabeth didn't come to Rapture, the whole story of BioShock would have never fucking happened. That is insane. We witnessed the first bonding of a Big Daddy and a little sister weeks after Subject Delta's death on New Year's, but we know that he's bonded. That was the whole point of BioShock 2, that the bond between Delta and Eleanor Lamb was so strong, it started killing him because they were apart, but it lasted for like a decade. This DLC not only retconned itself, it retconned the base game, it retconned BioShock 2, and to really just fuck me over, it retconned the very first BioShock. That is truly impressive and depressing to me. Wait. If drinkable plasmids are just vigors in Colombia, but they also take 10 times the amount of Atom to make, how come the people in Colombia are dependent on vigors? How come there are no splicers at all? How are they even able to... No. I'm done. I'm tired of thinking about this. It hurts my brain. But before I get to, like, the main plot, the main story of Virality, I just have to address this one thing that I saw someone say. And it got a bunch of people agreeing with them. They actually said that none of these retcons matter because Barrel at Sea is still a very fun DLC and a good game. A good expansion for BioShock Infinite. And guys, who cares if they ruin the story of the first and the second game? Who cares about that? We got to see Rapture before it was fully fucked over. Isn't that amazing? If that is seriously how low your standards are, you never liked BioShock to begin with, and I have no respect for you or your opinion. And you know what? If that bothers you, I don't care, okay? You're the reason why. You're the reason why. You're a part of the problem. You took everything from me. You ruined this series because you supported this. We could have killed them from the beginning. We could have ended all of this, stomped this out when BioShock Infinite released, but no. You chuckle fucks. You just had to beg for more. You just had to ask for more. We could have ended all of this. But no. No. BioShock 2 wasn't good. BioShock 2 was worse than BioShock 1. BioShock 2 was basically just BioShock 2.5. Burial at Sea Episode 1. I am now going to go over the plot. Elizabeth enters Booker's detective agency and asks him to find a girl who he claims is dead. For context, this girl is Sally. She was essentially a girl that viewed Booker as a father figure while he was out gambling. She was kidnapped and her body was reported to be found. Elizabeth is now telling him the girl is alive and they agree to meet Cohen so he can give them her location. Now you might be asking yourself, why would Cohen be involved with this child smuggling shit? Well, I hope you are prepared to die with that question in your mind, because I do not know. Who cares? Aren't you feeling nostalgic? So Cohen makes Booker and Elizabeth dance before knocking them out and bringing them to the building Ryan sunk. Not much happens here, to be honest. You can't cross this path without finding the old man Vigor. I mean Plasmid. So you go on a fetch quest to get in, freeze the water to get by. I honestly just played this DLC and I can't tell you any other memorable things. I'm pretty sure I just described 95% of the story. The other 5% is Elizabeth coming up with the idea to turn the heat on the little sister vents to force Sally out of them and into the central one. Booker attempts to force her out by hand after it doesn't work, before being attacked by a lore-destroying Big Daddy. After literally fucking killing it, you try to grab Sally again before you get PTSD and realize that you are Cumsock, and Elizabeth knew about this. She then reveals that she's here for revenge, and this happens.
You had to have me, didn't you?
No, this isn't right.
And when the guilt
No.
was too much.
You turn to us to solve your problem.
To provide a place to go where you might forget.
Where there never was an Anna in the first place.
Comstock was never one to own up to his errors, was he, brother?
Never comfortable with the choices he made.
Always seeking someone else's life to claim as his own.
Elizabeth. Child. I am so sorry.
No, you're not. But you're about to be.
Jinx on you! King! Now, I fucking hate this. I really do. We killed the Big Daddy. I don't care what you say. We literally killed it, but suddenly it's A-okay? That's not how it works. And why is Elizabeth such a cruel bitch now that she let this little girl be burned alive and not even save her? This whole DLC is a pointless fetch quest. You have to fetch a mask, a quote-unquote plasmid, and then close the vents. Nothing happens. Well, nothing besides breaking the lore entirely. But if you cannot fit a prequel into an existing story, get its fat ass out the way and find another train. So now, it's time to talk about Burial at Sea Episode 2. Now, Burial at Sea Episode 2 opens up with Elizabeth, but she's in Paris now. Except, you seem to find out that this is actually a nightmare sequence, and she's having these PTSD nightmares about Sally and how she abandoned her and basically fucked her over, which, she did, but now all of a sudden she's feeling the guilt from it because she randomly decided to have emotions again. I don't know when that happened, but, I don't know, pop off, I guess. So then she goes back to Rapture and ends up trying to save Sally, but no. Hold on for a second. She actually runs into Atlas, the guy from BioShock 1, and I think I remember how I told you guys earlier that Fontaine didn't actually know the trigger phrase and Elizabeth had to tell him, but this is how it happened. He basically sends her out on a task and she does it for him to save Sally in exchange. And honestly, I couldn't do it. I didn't play this DLC. I couldn't. I have a confession to make. And I'm sorry for not telling any of you this sooner, but I've never actually completed episode 2. I've started it multiple times, but I've never in my life completed it. It was one of the most agonizing experiences that I've ever had. And I've had a lot of things happen to me. I've been hit by a car. I'd rather get hit by a car 50 more times than play that DLC ever again. It was torture. It was torture, honestly. Everything about it. Not even the gameplay was fine. Because let's talk about the gameplay of this DLC, because people like to say, well, at least it improved Infinite's gameplay. If you consider this improving Infinite's gameplay, I would like to remind you what I said earlier. You have no standards, you have no respect for yourself, and let's talk about the quote-unquote improvement, because, well, you could say that it is improved, you wouldn't be wrong, but are we really this, like, accepting of this? Are we really this? Is this the bottom of the barrel stuff that we accept? All they changed was making it where you could hold all your weapons this time, which you barely get any weapons, but you can hold all your weapons and all your plasmids, or vigors, or whatever the fuck you want to call them at this point. I don't even know, I don't think they know. But you can hold all of them at the same time. Like how you could in BioShock 1 and 2. And I'm supposed to praise this because something a game did in 2007, and I would like to add, did it better. You want to praise that they finally just now did it? Because I'm not. I'm not going to praise that. BioShock 1 somehow did it better anyway. Because it's way easier and smoother to swap your weapons and your abilities. How is it more difficult to do it in a more modern game? I don't know. God only knows. I don't know. Do you know? Because I don't know. I don't know why. But yet people are going to praise this as if it's some revolutionary idea. Fuck you. No, it's not. You shouldn't praise this because of something that a game did in 2007. BioShock 1 was able to do it. And this game, it took them forever to add that basic feature in. And that's it. There is no other gameplay improvements from what I could tell. Nothing. Nothing about this gameplay is improved or better. It's still boring. BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea is boring. Maybe if they gave you the good plasmids, the actual plasmids, the real ones, maybe if you gave them, because those plasmids, maybe it'd be fun. We didn't get a single fun ability in this entire DLC. It's not even fun to shoot people, and that's coming from me. I can't take it. I can't do it. I can't talk about it anymore. I'm giving up. That's right, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm not talking about this game anymore. I can't. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm not playing this DLC. I'm not doing it. You can't make me. I'm not gonna do it. It ruined everything. It took everything from me, and I will never forgive it. I will never, ever play this DLC. And I'm done talking about it. Fuck you, I'm going to play Alan Wake. Wait a minute. Elizabeth knows that Atlas is actually Frank Fontaine, but doesn't tell Andrew Ryan? I don't think you guys understand. If Atlas was exposed as Fontaine, there would be no war. Fontaine would be killed by his own people because he isn't this kind hard to hear from the streets of Rapture. He's a successful businessman who became a terrorist. And speaking of that, Atlas is obviously evil. He tortures and threatens to kill innocent women. How can anyone trust him? Imagine if the people found out about the secret. He'd be screwed. Ryan would have all the political power, the war wouldn't happen, a ton of people would live, Jack would be fucked over, and the timeline would be drastically different. But instead of doing this, she didn't tell anyone? Why? She gets nothing from doing this. Does she actually risk the lives of everyone in Rapture so that Sally could possibly save the different timelines by Jack? Even though there's a half amount of timelines where he doesn't save anyone and he kills every little sister? Or he might kill her, or he might save her, but kill everyone else? I don't... What? And then when she could have just saved her herself and solved this whole thing, she could have saved her herself and made all of this stop. There's an infinite number of realities with an infinite number of variables. How can there be an infinite number of timelines that can be altered and you could change events in the timeline, but also fate isn't possible to alter despite this being a direct contradiction? How can you change an inevitable intersection, but that's impossible to do except there's an infinite number of timelines, but only a specific number of universes in the various timelines? And wait a second. Do you realize the implications? Andrew Ryan knew about different universes and timelines during the events of the first game. Am I the only one that's concerned about how this destroys every